Okay, now let's. I don't imagine there will be an immediate impact on the polls at the federal level. Maybe there will, but I think we should talk about two aspects of this, though. One, can federal Labor be blamed in any sense? And the second issue is whether there will be consequences, which I think is a very different issue altogether. Laura, Tony Abbott went into this campaign on Friday saying that this would be a referendum on a carbon tax.
Well, nice try, I think, Tony, you'd say, because he tends to say that about everything. But I think from the discussion this morning, it's really clear this was about people just wanting to get rid of Labor, the broken promise on privatisation. So I don't think anybody can claim, and I don't think anybody really was claiming last night, that this was about the carbon tax or any federal issues. But there's that sort of a half-life issue of broken promises, which you made mention of with Peter Beattie, and also I think there is the question of female leaders and the combination of those two factors. And the
Crosby Textor poll, Dennis, said 9%, I think, gave some consideration to federal issues. I mean, that's not a lot. That shows that there's a clear divide between the way you vote at state level and the way you vote federally.
Well, there usually is, and there certainly was this time. I worked it out the other day that the first state election I wrote about was 1976, and there have been a hell of a lot since then until now. I have never seen a state election that has been so intensely fought on state issues. This was a state election first, second and third. Certainly federal Labor is not popular in Queensland. The carbon tax is not popular. The asylum seeker issue is a big problem for Labor in Queensland. All these things are there, but they were pushed out of voters' minds. And I think a really telling thing was the first 10 days of this campaign was infected by the leadership crisis in the federal Labor Party. It was dealt with on the Monday. Both sides of politics told me on the Tuesday that it had disappeared Monday night.
So the fact that Kevin Rudd, a Queenslander, didn't win wasn't a negative in the end?
No. Well, it wasn't a negative, it wasn't a positive. It didn't matter. It hurt the Labor Party's vote in the first 10 days because they couldn't get their voice heard anywhere. But on that Monday night, it just fell off the tracking polling of both Labor and the LNP.
And even Anna Bligh, who in facing defeat in the couple of days before the election, said that she was quite clear about it. She might have had a temptation to say that some of the problem was this leaching of federal issues, but she didn't. She said it was all state issues, and in fact, even where there were federal issues like funding for roads or whatever, people thought they were the fault of the state government. So,
nevertheless, the consequences, and there will be consequences. I mean, for a start, your campaigning becomes more difficult because you haven't got that state. You now have another premier railing against you. There's some of the issues that Anna Bligh has suffered from, Julie Gillard will likewise.
Well, that's right. On the plus side, I suppose, if they have a meeting, the state parliamentarians can all arrive in one car, so that's that's kind of convenient.
I'll save on bus fares.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, look, they don't have the machinery there now. The lack of seats right through outside of Brisbane is going to make it very difficult for them to campaign. And of course, what we've seen here is a lot of Labor voters being prepared to vote against Labor for the first time, and presumably a lot of those are trade union members. So, this idea that, unionists are sort of, the bedrock of the Labor Party, it doesn't look like it's the case in Queensland. And if they've done it once at a state level, presumably they'd be prepared to do it again. I think that's an important point.
Well, that's the big worry for Labor in Queensland, that this was just a practice swing. And if it was a practice swing, then, hell is waiting for the federal Labor Party in Queensland. A lot of people think that because in the 2010 election there was such a big swing against Labor in Queensland, that Labor is at some sort of historic low. It's not. It's at, if you look through the history of federal Labor representation in Queensland, it's actually at an historic norm. It goes down much further. In 1976, they ended up with 2 seats. In 1996, in 1976 they ended up with 1 seat. 1996 they ended up with 2 seats. When federal Labor cops a swing in Queensland, it's actually bigger than some of the stuff that happened yesterday.